You were obviously in close contact with President Biden well before the public tuned into that debate that ultimately led to him stepping down. I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Those statements from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer were in February of 2024, when clearly President Joe Biden's mental acuity was not as great as Senator Schumer would have you believe. Now, he was confronted with that video while on Meet the Press over the weekend. And the real question is, how did he respond to it? Let's take a look.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
No. Look, we didn't. And let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record, and he's a patriot. He's a great guy. And when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Do you feel, as we have this conversation today, that President Biden could serve another 4 years had he stayed in the race and potentially won?
Well, I'm not going to speculate. As I said, I think his record is a stellar one, and he'll go down in history as a really outstanding president.
All these people need to be voted out of the Democratic Party, okay? It's not good enough that Biden's gone. People like Chuck Schumer, they need to be gone. I mean, the audacity to continue lying to the American people after everything that's transpired during the past election cycle, it blows me away, it really does. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, I mean, look, not only did he pretend that Biden's still in great shape. I mean, brother, who are you kidding? Really? And he was an amazing president, et cetera. But to be fair to him, every Democrat was pretending that Joe Biden was a great president, the best one since FDR, and young and dynamic until the debate. And so now I see tons of Democrats saying that, they're so aggrieved by Biden. What are you guys talking about? When we said Biden should drop out, you all, and when I say all you, I mean Democrats in Washington, people in mainstream media, you all yelled at us. I said, how dare you? You should bow to the powerful. Bow, obey. Pretend he's young and dynamic. But on top of that, Schumer said, oh, he was so gracious, he did it on his own. No, he didn't.
It's so ridiculous.
Outrageous lie. We had to push and punch and shove, and he didn't want to do it on a boat. He didn't want to do it on a go. He's still complaining about it. He still said to a reporter the other day, apparently behind the scenes, or it got leaked, that he said that he would have won if he'd stayed in the race. The guy's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I get it. He has dementia, right? So the people around him are monsters. They're still pushing him out there. Go, Joe. Say we would have won, Joe. Here's what you should be saying, Joe. He doesn't know what the hell he's saying. And monsters like Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, Anthony Blinken, and Chuck Schumer, all of these guys aided and abetted what happened here. Obama and Pelosi had buyer's remorse near the end when they're like, oh, our propaganda isn't going to work, so let's ditch him and get a new guy. But overall, they're all guilty. They all knew and they all lied through their teeth, including Chuck Schumer.
So I'm going to be a little more fair because I think it is hyperbole to say all Democrats knew. I think Democratic leadership certainly knew. Someone like Chuck Schumer, who was in constant contact with Joe Biden, certainly knew, which is why I thought this story was more interesting than others, because this isn't just some rank and file Democrat. And remember, Cenk, we did that story about the huge expose in regard to Biden's mental decline, who knew what. And there were rank and file Democrats who were trying to get in touch with Biden during his term, and they couldn't. I forget the name of the one Democrat who said he was able to speak to Biden literally once. during the entire 4 years. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to clarify. So I agree and disagree. So I agree with you that they didn't all consciously know. And I'm sure that tons of them told themselves pretty little lies. And mostly they were in a bubble. And in that bubble, you never, ever question leadership. You never question authority. You always bow your head like a good, subservient little boy and girl. You follow orders, whether it's a donor or it's Democratic leadership. So you're right that they didn't all know consciously, right? But a lot of them did know because they interacted with Biden. And to the point that you're making, a lot of them couldn't even get in touch with Biden. But did any of them say anything publicly? No.
No, that's sacrilege.
They did the exact opposite.
But hold on. It's sacrilege for Democrats. Okay, you're not allowed to have any disagreement. You're not allowed to go against the grain even a little bit in the Democratic Party. Okay,
that's right.
You have to just go along with what Democratic leadership demands, and that's a huge problem. That ended up leading to Democrats losing big in this election.
And it wasn't just that they were yelling at us, that we're not important.
Who cares about us?
Yeah, but what my point is, they yelled at Jon Stewart when he did it, they yelled at Charlemagne when he did it, but most importantly, Dean Phillips, a US congressman, ran against Joe Biden, and they took his head off. All these people that are now like, oh boy, we had concerns and blah, blah, blah. No, you guys were the ones lying and trying to, character assassinate Dean Phillips and everyone else who ran against Joe Biden. They're all guilty. And guys, that's exactly the number one point I'm trying to make is that the next time they lie to you and tell you to bow your head and obey because the Wizard of Oz really knows what he's doing and don't look behind the curtain, just trust the wizard that he's a genius and young and dynamic. They're lying to you. So when they say it about Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom, well, they'll be younger and they'll have a new script, but it's the same old corporate guys who are never, ever going to look out for you. They're only gonna look out for themselves and their donors.
Now, a question was raised in regard to what led to the big losses that Democrats suffered in this election cycle. And what I thought was interesting is Schumer immediately pivoted to what I think Democrats excel in, what they're really good at, which is placing the blame on the electorate. Take a look.
One of the things we have to do is we must focus on the working families of America. We believe in them. And we passed all kinds of legislation that helped them. The infrastructure bill, which made our economy stronger and employed lots of people. The chip hubs, where we're now having chip hubs in places to do new manufacturing and new research that were left out before. Missoula, Montana, Bloomington, Indiana. The bill lowering the cost of prescription drugs. As of January 1st, 10 of the most popular prescription drugs will be greatly lowered because we finally allowed, under our leadership, the drug companies, we forced them to negotiate with Medicare. So we did a lot of good things, but all too often, Kristen, we talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done and how much we care for them.
I mean, the working families just didn't know. They didn't know how awesome we were and how much we delivered for them. The working class families that I myself, Chuck Schumer, said we didn't need back in 2016. And this is his direct quote as he was speaking before a Washington Post panel. He said, quote, "For every blue collar Democrat we lose in Western Pennsylvania, we will pick up 2 moderate Republicans in the suburbs in Philadelphia. And you can repeat that in Ohio and Illinois and Wisconsin." That is what Chuck Schumer said during the 2016 presidential election. The abandonment of the working class in America was very much intentional by Democrats like Chuck Schumer. And it didn't work out for them. And rather than take responsibility for a total garbage strategy, he's just arguing, no, we actually did incredible things for working class voters. It's just that they didn't realize it. Maybe we need to do a better job explaining it to them. No, I'm gonna go ahead and say that most working class working class voters, people who are still in the job market, people who still need to earn a living, people who can't qualify for Social Security at the moment, or Medicare at the moment, aren't gonna be too jazzed about the 10 pharmaceutical drugs that the Medicare system specifically can now negotiate for lower drug prices. If you don't have Medicare, that policy doesn't impact you, okay? So it's just so incredibly frustrating to see Democratic leadership still fail to take personal responsibility for their failed strategies and how much they have failed in delivering for working class voters intentionally.
Yeah. So he had that genius idea of getting more moderate Republicans, even if it cost Democrats their base of working class voters. So how many Republicans did they get to switch back in 2016? 7%. Ooh. And then how about in 2020? 6%. How about in 2024? 5%. So less and less each time. So why do they keep going back to that well when it is demonstrably and empirically an incorrect political strategy? Because to them, it's not an incorrect political strategy. That's where a lot of their donors are. They're Republicans who are moderates who live in the suburbs, and they feed Chuck Schumer's mouth full of billions of dollars in donations. So he's like, I love moderate Republicans. I'll give them anything they want. He doesn't care if he loses the election based on that. He'd rather win, he'd rather have power, but most of all, he has to serve his donors. Guys, I know someone who worked with Schumer in the past. Without divulging names were said in private, when Schumer was asked, this was a long time ago, about a particular issue, he said, I'll have to ask Tish what he thinks. So who's Tish? That's the Tish family in New York. They're giant, giant donors. Chuck Schumer literally asks his donors what he should do on every issue. So that's the level of corruption that we're talking about here. So he doesn't think it's a brilliant political strategy. He just thinks this is what my donors paid for. This is what I'm gonna give them. If people found out how much the Democrats didn't do for the working class, they'd vote for them even less. So what happened in this term? Who killed the $15 minimum wage? Joe Biden did. He asked for to be taken out of the bill, even though he ran on it. It was the very first thing he did was to make sure that you were not gonna get an increase in your wages, because his donors didn't want it. And who killed the public option? Joe Biden did. He didn't even propose it. Paid family leave, didn't try at all. It's at 84%. Any idiot could pass paid family leave, but Joe Biden didn't try. Chuck Schumer didn't try. They didn't try on any of these things because they had to check with the Tish family and the Soros family and the now Musk and the Adelsons and every freaking donor there is. They don't work for us. Chuck Schumer is just a very, very poor liar. So, but right now progressives in Congress are like, oh, how can we work with Chuck Schumer? You're not, these guys are not on our side, man. There's no working with the Chuck Schumers of the world. Just defeat them already.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.